Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it comes from a translation of a message that I received. The translation reads like this. Hello, Brother Nashi, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? My brother, I want to confess that I was once a big thief, Brother Nashi. And for me to be the man that I used to be, it was because of the charms that I got. Well, I got these charms. This was after me and this other man, we had this deal. So this man, he was a truck driver. So he was transporting some maize grain out of Zambia. He was supposed to come and deliver them in Zim. So this Zambian truck driver then pretended as if he had been hijacked. But what we had done is that we had done a backroom deal and we had sold off that lot. Then we split the money in half. But then I got arrested. That guy, even though he was arrested on his side, it seemed as if he was the one who was innocent. He walked scot-free and he blamed us. He said that we were the one who had forced him to sell that lot, even though he was the one who had came with that idea. After we had been released, this was 2 years later, we were still friends because he was into a lot of deals. He used to deal in copper and lot of stuff. He was just a thug like that. So we didn't stop being friends. After he had looked for a good lawyer and paid off the lawyer in US dollars, our case then was thrown out. Let me say that there was a little bit of corruption that happened there. My brother, when we came out of prison 2 years later, we then sat down with this guy and we just wanted to know what is it that made him to walk scot-free, and we had to go and serve 2 years. Then he said that he knew this other man back there in Zambia. So this man, he could actually come and give us the charms. At that time, I was staying in an area called Waterfalls. That is where I was staying even right now. Even though I moved from my parents' house, I am still staying in Waterfalls. So, Brother Nash, this story, when it happened, it was in 2002, just after I had finished my O-level. That was when I was arrested. I was still very young, Brother Nashi, to be arrested for such a big crime, but I just liked money. And even right now, it seems as if I have this magnet that attracts criminals. Whenever I go around, I always attract criminals to me, and then they will start telling me that they want me to join them up in one of their illegal business dealings. But as for now, I am trying to do the things that I think are right. I do not want to rot in prison, because all of my life from a very young age, I have been in prison and out of prison. That man, Brother Nashi, he then took us to Zambia. We went to this other area that is called Ndola. And when we went to that area, I was then given some charms. So these charms that were given to me, we were made to swallow these charms. And when we have swallowed these charms, then once they have entered into our stomach, the charm then became a snake. What was needed was that I had to eat a lot of pap or soft porridge, but the one that is cooked with sorghum, that is all that this snake that lives in my stomach survives on. And I was told that I was not allowed to eat fish or any creature that survives in the river. I was not allowed to do so, and I was not allowed to eat food that is not prepared when I am not there, or even a cow that is slaughtered when I am not there, just like what Muslims do. They do not eat a cow or any other animal that is slaughtered when they are not there. That were some of the rituals that were given to me. Brother Nashi, me and my syndicate, we then returned back to Zim. When we returned back to Zim, then there was something that was terrible that happened. When I had bought my first small truck, then the people that had hired our truck, they had some goods that they wanted to be transported from Musina coming to Harare. Because I had been a thug for a very long time, Brother Nashi, the first thought that came to my mind was that I was going to tell these people that my drivers had been hijacked. So after we had loaded everything on their truck, I didn't go with my drivers because I wanted someone who was going to be a witness as to where I was at that time. So I remained back home. Then I called the owner of those groceries that had hired my truck, and I told them that we had been hijacked. And then that person said that he was going to visit a traditional healer. This person, he actually went to this other traditional healer who is there in Chegutu. When he went to that traditional healer, he was told that it was I who had planned everything because I had opened up my small grocery shop. So after we had stolen the groceries and we had loaded them into another truck, the groceries were then transported again to Harare, straight to my shop. So he was told everything about everything that had happened by that traditional healer. He then confronted me and he told me that all that he wanted was his groceries. If I had sold anything, then it was okay, but at least I should return back the groceries to him so that at least he can explain the situation to his wife. I then said, I am going to report you to the police because this is like defamation of character. I didn't rob you and I actually have the receipts. What we had done, Brother Nash, is that in Musina, there was this other good Indian friend of mine. He used to give us fake receipts. We would actually buy groceries, then we will just forge the receipts. Then those were the receipts that I produced when that guy came with the police. After that, I then heard that this man, he then went to Rua. In Rua, that was when he met another traditional healer. 5 years later, Brother Nashi, that was when I started to suffer from severe diarrhea. The first day when I started to suffer from this severe diarrhea, when I had gone to the bathroom, whilst I was sitting on the toilet seat after I had finished doing my poo, when I got up from the toilet seat, when I looked into the toilet, I then saw that there was blood all over the place, and when I wiped myself, the blood kept on coming out. You know, like women, when they are on their periods, they go for their periods for 3 months. I went on my periods, Brother Nashi, until I had to be returned back to Zambia. At that time, I was weak. I was losing a lot of blood. And this blood, it was coming from that place where you do poo. That is where the blood kept coming out. It was coming out over and over again, such that my wife had to buy those adult diapers. Even though those adult diapers, they were not enough, she cried and she said, "Oh God, what is this? What is the meaning of this?" She cried when she was taking one of her unused sanitary pads. It was a pack that was still full. She took them out and she taught me how to use them, Brother Nashi. I then took one of those small underwears and I had to put that sanitary pad, and then I had to wear it because the blood was coming out. For 3 days, I was on my period. I was then rushed to Zambia. When we went to Zambia, I stayed at that traditional healer. But from the moment that I stepped my foot at the traditional healer's compound, I was okay. But when I returned back to Zim 5 months later, I kept on producing. There was the blood that kept on coming up from that place at the back where you do poo, and we returned back to Zambia. Then when I returned back, that was when that traditional healer said that, "I know that you are suffering, but it is time for you to find a solution. Don't you want to find a solution?" I then said that, "Yes, I do want to find a solution." Then that traditional healer said that if you sacrifice someone in your family, will it be okay if I tell you that you are supposed to sacrifice someone so that you can be okay? I then chose one amongst my brothers. When I called out the name of my brother, he appeared. This brother of mine, he was a white garment prophet. He appeared in this other mirror that the traditional healer had told me to hold. Whilst I was holding that mirror, I saw that my brother, he appeared and he was praying wherever he was. He kept on praying in the spirit, but he did not realize that this was the spiritual battle that was taking place in the spiritual realm. I kept on calling the name of my brother until that traditional healer's shrine started to shake. The whole consulting room that we were in started to vibrate and to shake as if the wind wanted to lift off the roof. He then shouted at me and he said, "Stop calling his name. Choose another name, your child's name, for God's sake." That was when I called my last-born son. As for my last-born son, he was the one who was swallowed by that snake. Brother Nashi, when this snake was pulled out of my stomach, I could not believe that this is the snake that stays in my stomach. It was as big as a python, but very different from a python. It has two very small horns on top of its nostrils. Those two horns, they are the ones that it uses when it is sucking blood from its victim. When it was pulled out of my stomach, then my son, he was just standing there. Whilst he was standing there, then the snake coiled itself around the body of my son, and then it started to smash him into several pieces. When we had left that traditional healer's place, we were on the bus returning back to Zim. We then received a text message. My son had been hit by a truck. My brother, it was not like a random truck. It was my own truck. It hurts me a lot, Brother Nashi. I even thought of burning that truck because it kept on reminding what had happened. So at that time, my son, he was only 2 years old, and we had to leave him behind since he didn't have a passport. And since I was sick, it was only me and my wife and one of my friend who knew everything that had happened. We were the ones that returned back to Zambia. We left my son in the care of my wife's younger sister. So she was indoors and my son was just busy playing outside. He was all alone when the driver was reversing that UD truck. He didn't hear a thing when the wheels of the UD truck was rolling on top of my son's body. My son was smashed first with the back wheels, and then he was smashed again with the front wheels, and this was like a double diff lorry. So it was the first two wheels, then the front wheel. When they found out that this was what had happened, my son, he was no longer recognizable. It pained me a lot. My wife cried. She blamed me, but she knew that this is what I had done in the first place. From that day, Brother Nashi, up until today, there is still that snake that lives in my body. Sometimes I can actually hear this snake as it will be making the hissing sounds. But as for hijacking and stealing stuff, I left that life a very long time ago. I am trying to be a good person. I do not go to any church at all, but I try to read my Bible on a daily basis. I am no longer preparing for this life that I am living, but I am preparing for the life that I am supposed to live the day that God is going to call my name. Dear listeners, right there was a narration of a voice note that I received. It was sent to me by one of our brothers. He's saying that I no longer focus on the things of this world, but I am waiting for the day that God is going to call my name. Strange things do happen in this world.